So I think we'll start off. You're welcome to keep the card. But this is my deck called Whispers from a Horse's Heart. So you can choose any card that you would like and see if it has any meaning for you this evening, and you can keep the card. And so that kind of pass those around and just see what comes up for you. One way that we plan is introduce ourselves, talk a little bit, both of us, about our own journey with horses. We never know where that's going. One time we were laughing, one time it was about our previous careers, and other times our childhood, and other time it was what our year had been like with them. So we don't know where we're going with that.
I think destiny was the decision with that. And so the three factors: one, I had a beautiful horse, Carrie has her name, she's still alive, she's 24 years young, she's a Palomino, and she now lives in France. But she was one of the catalysts, not that easy to ride, quite hot, and so that would mean she would prance a lot of locations. There was a lot of jogging and prancing. But also, the more we did together, the more people would actually advise to go stronger with her. And so I did show jumping, I did some short, long distance rides, that means a few miles, some pub crawls as well with her. And I would do the show jumping, a little bit of cross country, dressage, and enjoy all of it. But Carrie got banned from a number of competitions. I say Carrie because it was probably more her than me. I was pretty much out of control and just sat on my horse. She could jump 4 feet from a standstill. You'd be chatting
like
and she'd just jump over something. The other one pretty much was a head-on car accident. I had a couple of car accidents. One where the police car rolled over in a ditch, but the other one was a head-on car accident, which meant it was 60 miles an hour. 40 from one car, 20 from the other. And that was a little bit of a physical issue leading to a convalescent home with the police and rehab. I'd love to take credit to say I moved to California on my own volition to be a horse whisperer. Every path ended, and there was only one road forward. I ended up studying with Monty Roberts. He's one of the famous horse whisperers, and I was in the right place at the right time. And so that meant pre-fame. I was at the farm, rode the racehorses, started colts, gentled mustangs, and eventually his idea was to start the school there. It was October, and by January I created a lot of the syllabus and opened the school. The majority of the classes that you find there now were classes that I ended up creating. I had a great time there. I chose him because I felt he was one of the few speaking the language of Equus and doing the body language in its natural form. And so, I spent the past 15 years not only teaching that piece, exploring it day in, day out, from becoming an animal communicator to teaching it, to teaching the natural horsemanship, attuning people to Reiki, teaching that, and developing the Reiki for Horses program. Each piece is the communication, each piece is the energetic connection, and equally as important, if you look at how you are in the world and potentially what religion you follow, if you look at that piece, and I look at where I've come from childhood to now in my religion, and I would say the outdoors is just that. The animals are just that. I've learned more talking to animals from a distance, so from here to Dubai, Australia, etc. Learned more from that than anything in my whole life, ultimately. I can learn that we have afterlife. I can learn what happens on the other side. You can learn about the mirror, the compassion, the unconditional love. There's nothing the animals can't teach you.
I work a lot with clients who are seeking their life purpose. They're trying to figure out, like, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing with myself on the planet? And so blessed are those of us that have that laid out so clearly for us. And when you know you're on it, there's just a sense of peace, I guess is the word. And with absolute certainty, I went into my 6th grade science class, very first day, and at the last of class, the teacher said, "Oh, and if any of you are interested, I have a horse for sale, and she needs a home as soon as possible." I'm like, my horse? No doubt. I knew it was my horse because my dad was away at a convention and my mom was home alone. Had to be assigned. 50% of the force field was taken care of. The biggest energy issue was gone. So I bought a retreat center in Coconino Forest in Flagstaff, Arizona. Much higher elevation, a lot cooler, pine country, all that kind of thing. And my therapeutic clients would come up and spend 2 or 3 days on the ranch once a month and continue to work on their own personal growth or their marriage or their career or whatever they were working on. And it was that juncture when the horses started showing up to carry the healing that they have on their hearts to humans. So my horses were there, this was in the 80s, my horses were there because I was riding and trail riding and showing and practicing, and they were there for me and my family, not my clients. I wasn't merging the two yet. And yet my clients who were muggles, they were not horsemen, they were just muggles. That's a Harry Potter word. If you haven't read Harry Potter, you don't know what I'm talking about. They were muggles in the horse world. So they didn't know anything about horses, and yet they were drawn like a magnet to walk along the fence lines or see if they could pet one or whatever. And I would see, out of a herd of 10 or 12 horses grazing in knee-high grass, I would see them in the center of this 30-acre paddock, you know, look at each other like, oh, I'll take that one, I'll be right back. And one would peel off from the herd, not the same one, go to the fence, like that was their assignment. And they would stand there and commune and talk. And I'd see such big physiological changes and emotional changes and energetic changes in the clients. Anna is beyond gifted. I read from photos. I have a lot of fun doing it. I have tons of stories of accuracy, and I have no doubt where the information comes from for me or anything else. And I've had the pleasure of hanging with some of the best animal communicators on the globe. I mean, lots of them that have written the books. I got the radio shows and all of this stuff. She sits in my arena at a Move Toward Love and starts this reading, and I think, dang girl, she's the best I've ever seen. Never seen anybody that's as strong an animal communicator as she is. And she knows, and I can. But my heart clenched up, and there was something in my throat. There was something this horse is not being heard about. And he feels very clear. He's making it very clear, a preference that he does not want. And it feels just, it's like being deeply disrespected. That's the way he feels, just like I could cry. He's like deeply disrespected, like his essence is being disrespected. And so in that, and especially at this time when this was taken, his message is, I am not giving up. You are not going to take my essence. I won't give you that part of me. So he's withholding some away. Now with this one, in this particular moment in which this photo was taken, he was lighter, much lighter in the heart. And
I see in pictures. With the pictures I have the essence. If it were a physical issue, I can feel it in my body. And then I occasionally hear things, I see words written if it cannot be displayed in an imagery. So that's a little bit about how the session would go. The surrounding area that he's giving would be quite in a wide open space. It feels quite tranquil, quite calm to it, and it doesn't feel very close to a road actually. It feels like there's space there. If I look around, the property will have, if I look around, that's nice, but I do that so I can remote view, so I can see a house on the property and I can see some outbuildings, as well as fenced in locations that are quite shaped. So shape means it wouldn't look so natural, like a fence has been put around a natural area, as much as this is more of a man-made area. But there's multiples, so I do feel that there's space for him to go around, as well as space to eat. It feels dry. Feels dry to the area that you're in. So I don't know how dry it is in California right now, but it certainly feels dry. And the grass, if I look at the grass, it would differ from the grass that you see in Florida that's kind of moist, and the grass here right now looks good. That grass doesn't look quite like that. So it looks drier and it looks shorter. So that will be the area that he's in. That he hasn't had all that much done with him. So whatever he's had done will be handling care for sure. So he's got good weight on him. If we do a body score of a 1 to 10, 1 being not good weight, 9 being obese, he's got perfect weight. If I've rubbed my hand over him, I can feel the ribs just, but I can't see the ribs, so he's got a good weight on him. Now, when he says he's not had all that much done, he's been left. He's been left out to pasture to be a horse, but the bay has had more. So there you go. offering him what he can't get where he is, and he's offering you what you can't get where you're at.
Yeah.
So it is actually perfect because you have an understanding. Both of you have entered this sort of as adults, so kind of thing of, and you know exactly where you stand. So it works. It's all right. I do feel that he's not complete, that maybe he doesn't get exactly what he needs where he's at. So I feel like you do compensate there, but it definitely works.
If I slowed my feet down, he'll slow his down. If I pick my feet up, keep the motion going, he'll pick his up. Classic movement just there. So he will also mimic that gesture. When he asks to come in, I can draft my eyes to where I'd like him to come. And that's a gesture to invite him forward. So he actually said, I'd love to come in. My response is, you can come in at this time. Keep my eyes on his butt, he'll turn his butt around and come towards me. So there's a lot of popular belief that you have to keep your eyes to the rear to drive, which would be incorrect. In order to catch the whisper, the eyes actually go on the horse's eyes. And so when you see those instant responses, you know that it's a language and it's his language. I'm going to drag my eyes in front of him and invite him to come to me. There we go. Now the difference in this would be, so remember I stepped in the shoulder and asked him to leave. But the difference can be, if I wanted to go around him, I just got to check in with his eyes to see if that's possible. And so here, going around him, quite different than asking him to leave. That's a great stand, bud. Great stand. So intention, step in the shoulder, going around him, would be very different than asking him to leave, which we can do in a moment. If I put my eyes on his eyes and ask him to follow, that's how that will look. Versus square on, asking him to stand and stay there. So minor gesture, big influence. If I capture his eyes and ask him to yield the hind end, you're seeing the subtleties. So we're going to still go for the yield at the hind end. I'd like a better yield, that's it. So the better yield means crossing the feet over and then asking him to follow versus asking him to stand.
Stay with the loss. She's actually going to lie down, which is remarkable. Just stand still. And just focus into your heart chakra and into that sense of your body, how your body is recuperating from some of that. Really kind of different behavior for her, so I'm just going to pay attention to it. So is this a loss you have a lot of resistance to? Was there a sense of unfairness to it? Okay, so she's showing me a deep sense of unfairness to this loss. Like resistance, unfairness to it. A little bit longer. Here she goes. So that's a direct heart chakra right there. And just breathe. Just stay as much as you can out of your mind and into your body. If you feel dizzy, she'll brace you. Cover up. So that was a big shift for you because you just really let her in. She just could not get through there. And just let the immense love, 10 times the size of our heart, just the immense healing. Now they carry a frequency, or a vibration, they carry a frequency that's much higher than ours. My quarter horses in paint sometimes will absorb people's pain so much that then afterwards they're just kind of like, just with it. But you know, they live in a present moment. So what they're not doing is processing it. They're not saying, oh, that poor woman, I need to stay worried about her, and so next Wednesday I'm still going to be sad about her. They don't do that, so they can clear it very quickly. bubble, and she communicates really well with me. I have not had her long, but she's like trying to find her pantomiming to me. And so for her, she was like, I know it's like all this turbulent energy, so the only way she could tell me was either shaking or doing that roll, because it certainly wasn't a gratifying roll for her. You know, when they're going to roll and they want to roll and it feels good, you know, they're like itching, and you can tell, I mean, they're enjoying it. That was like a nervous kind of roll. And then the only way she could show me there is resistance and pushback was to go over to the pen and say there's like pushback, there's like not something there. So they actually pantomime that stuff out pretty clearly.